Can you all hear me? Perfect. All right. Brian said, I am Madeline Button. I'm the new OER analyst here. I'm helping out with the community funding grant. So I just wanted to start off the week with a little overview of H5P and ADAPT. You guys may have heard these terms, but may not know exactly what they are. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of what they are, how you can access them, and then we have some amazing faculty who are going to show what they've done in their courses, how they've built content, how they've integrated it. They've got some great examples. We have math, biology, and French. So let's go ahead and get into it. So H5P is the software you're going to build your content. They have questions, activities, assignments. You're going to create interactive material within HTML5 and right in your browser. It's super simple. I'll go in depth a little bit more later about how you can get an account with Libre Text, Libre Studio, and that's how you can build that content. So that's where you're going to make those questions, and by itself, you can integrate it into your course. The caveat there is that it doesn't have the auto grading feature, just in H5P. So if you want student self-evaluation or some review, that's a great option. But if you want it to be graded and integrated within the Canvas LMS, that's where ADAPT is going to come in. So that houses those questions to be able to track student performance. So H5P is kind of where you build it, and then ADAPT is how we're going to link it back into Canvas. So why H5P? It's great because you can create your own material. You can share it. The goal here is open resources, so you can share it district-wide and beyond, or you can find material that's already there and reuse it or remix it so that it fits within your course framework. It's great interactive content. It's user-friendly. I'll show you a couple screenshots later. It's super simple, and they just have a huge range of interactive content. Can make quizzes, games, activities, interactive videos, and they're constantly adding more, which is awesome. If you go straight to their site, they show monthly, even bi-monthly updates of things that they've added, either fixing bugs or new options. They have tons and tons of things. If you want to get in there and explore, there's tons to be able to look at. So building your content within H5P, this is where you're going to use Libre Studio. It's free. You can get an account. You go to this link here, studio.libretext.org. You're going to use your district email, obviously your name, your information, and then it's going to ask for registration code. It's capital ASCCC. And that's kind of how you can get in and use that software. I mean, H5P in itself has paid options, but if you go through Libre Studio, then you have a free account and you don't have to pay anything, which is great. So building content, you can see here, you just choose a new H5P resource. They have tons of options, multiple choice, interactive video. And when you decide which one you're going to go with, they have tutorials, they have examples, and they even have a tab here where you can check your accessibility to make sure all students, can access it. Let's see, I'm going to go back because I do have some sample questions here. I made just a bunch of sample ones so that you can see a super basic format of the type of content you can choose. So let's go ahead and we'll do image pairing. So obviously super simple. Sometimes the hardest part is finding your openly licensed photos. So I found these pictures of pizza on the right. We're going to match them with the shape. We just drag and drop over here. Like I said, I made super basic, super silly examples. You check your answer, and it can either be self-assessment, or in this case, I might get 30 points for my 3 questions right, and that would pop up right into Canvas. So let's get back into this. So now ADAPT. This is kind of the link between the H5P content and then getting it to show up in Canvas. It is a free homework assessment platform sponsored by a grant from California Education Learning Lab. If you want a lot more in-depth information about it, there's some great YouTube videos. We held a mini fest here on campus in December, if you attended that. Otherwise, they have it archived here. Delmar Larson is one of the co-founders, and he usually hosts these. He goes in depth, and it's great resource just if you want to learn more and get kind of a step-by-step picture into using and building courses within Adapt. So that's after you've made that H5P material. If you look here, every H5P content, so this is just one question, it's going to have a unique ID number, and that's what you're going to drop into your Adapt courses, your Adapt assignments, and then I'll show you how you're going to get it into Canvas. So you build a course within Adapt that's going to align or parallel with your course that you're teaching. So obviously you're going to need an account first. You'll go to Adapt, again, libretext.org. They have a drop-down menu on the right for contact us, and you'll request an instructor access because obviously you want it from the teacher side of things. And then you're going to build up your course framework that just, matches right up with the course that you're teaching, start and end dates, and just make sure that you choose your individual campus site. So that way, I believe Brian has set it up that all district-wide campuses are ready to integrate into Canvas LMS. And then you can go ahead and build your individual assignments. And those you'll link through an external tool type in Canvas. And like I said, you drop that unique H5P ID into the Adapt assignments. You can see here, you'll build your assignment in Canvas, link it through the external tool. It should be all set up. It'll load here. If you've ever done external tool, this little bar, and then it's great. It's already set up automatically in your gradebook. So yeah, like I said, H5P is where you're going to build the content. Adapt is where you house it, and that's what kind of links it between Canvas. And it's great because it does all this automatically. It's auto grading, and it's just a great option for more interactive material. And now I'll hand it. Oh, if you want to contact me for any questions or assistance, feel free. This is my email here. But now we have some faculty who are going to show what they've been doing in their courses. We have Kelly Spoon, who teaches math at Mesa, Sarah Hawkins, who does biology at City, and Philippe Patto, who does French at City as well. So I'll go ahead and pass it off to Kelly now.
Thank you, Maddie. So first, yes, we'll make sure that we give the slides to Rochelle to put into the OER week resources along with everything else. I put those links, some of them that Maddie gave in the chat as well. So Maddie covered a brief overview of what H5P is. Hopefully you got a chance to click into that set of all of her example questions. You can kind of see what is available. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the why. I'm definitely the most novice of our crew, which is why I volunteered myself to go first of this group. I learned about H5P earlier this semester from Sarah, who's going next, and was like, I need this. And so figured I would tell you the why for all the things that Maddie told you about what H5P is. So for me, formative assessments are at the core of my course, and having students be able to see if they understand a particular skill or can do something. Am I showing the right screen? Good. This. Okay, good. I feel like didn't do the normal. Can you see my screen? And so I want my students to have questions that they can look at and know, do I understand a particular topic? Part of my thought process here, or the reason I care about this, is that if students are going to set goals in terms of how to do well in a course, it's very helpful if they know exactly what they need to work on, right? It also helps them when it comes to resource and help seeking, instead of just generally saying, I need help with chapter 1, they can say I need help factoring a trinomial with a leading term, not A, because they know exactly what it is that they're struggling with. And then lastly, it really helps with motivation because our students are able to have small successes on these formative quizzes in H5P, especially that little star that you saw when Maddie clicked the right answer. I don't know. It's like the confetti in Canvas to me, just brings me a little bit of joy. And so our students are getting the message that they belong here and that they are capable because they're able to do these smaller things, even if they might struggle a bit more with the bigger tasks that we put in front of those larger assessments. So a little bit about what I teach. I teach in every modality except for high flex. I don't believe in that. I teach on campus. This semester, I am a hybrid classes, which are 50% online. We meet 1 day a week on campus, and then I have an asynchronous online. In all of my classes, students are working through content on their own. And then if we meet, that is where we're doing more collaborative group work type things. They're playing with the ideas that they've already been through. And so having a formative assessment, like something available in H5P with those multiple choice questions, those different question types Maddie had in her examples, is important to me, that students can know what they need help with as soon as they walk in the door after going through my content. So I've done a lot of things trying to make this work before Sarah told me that H5P existed. I briefly considered Canvas Studio back when I presented all of my information in video format. Then I learned a little bit more about universal design for learning and realized I really wanted my students to be able to interact with the content in a format that worked for them. So now it's a mix of, here's a video, here's text, you can choose which you want to learn through. So Canvas Studio and embedded questions within Canvas Studio were kind of a no-go. I also didn't know if I could do feedback. It seemed like a lot of work. So instead, I did a lot of work making Canvas quizzes. So I'm going to show you really quickly what that looks like and the thing I'm going to redo. So my Canvas quizzes were set up, told students how long they were going to take. They were all set up as actual graded quizzes, because then I could move assignment dates. That's a whole nother thing. But students would go in, they might see some content in text form, they might watch a video about a particular topic, and then there would be an assessment asking if they understood what alt text was. So okay, maybe they get that one right. And then they go through another piece asking them about color, and they can answer that question. And at the end of all of this, I'm just going to scroll to the bottom. They would submit the quiz, and it would tell them, drum roll, finally, they'd scroll down and they could see my feedback. So if they got a question right, they would see that along with my feedback to them. If they got a question wrong, right, they see that. And if I had chosen a wrong answer, I should have, I thought I was, they would have gotten that feedback as well. So I had feedback for each wrong answer, sort of with whatever that misconception might have been. The biggest drawback of this for me was that they didn't get feedback until they were done with the entire quiz. So 30 minutes after they started, they finally found out that they didn't understand alt text, right? And they've already moved on to colors and, descriptive links and other accessibility considerations. And now they're going back and trying to figure out what they did wrong. And the only way to make it really less painful for a student was to have it show the correct answer right away. So they didn't get a second chance to say, like, well, what is it? Maybe I should try again and try something different. I just had that show the correct answers, because when they're doing a whole quiz again, it is very annoying to have to keep doing that. But the question level feedback was awesome. The ability to mix like written and video content before those questions, I loved. So I moved on. I tried my open math. So, for my open math, this is an OER thing, but you can see it's not the cutest looking thing, but it does show up directly in Canvas when students linked in. Again, I could put a video, and then I could put questions embedded in there, and I had a lot of different options, and they could submit as they went, and they could retry. But writing feedback in my open math writing questions in my open math, if you ever tried it, is one of the worst things ever. It is really, really painful, especially moving from a Canvas quiz, which is like a what you see is what you get situation. So what I've been doing with H5P, I have not used Adapt yet. Instead, I just have all of my content, videos and text, just like I always did. But now I have embedded questions where a student can try something, check it, see, ooh, here's the expanded form of what you just assessed on and why it's not negative 81. And then they can either show the solution or retry. Like, okay, I want to try this again. Well, negative times a negative is positive. Woohoo. And in fact, I can put those all into one little quiz where students can move forward one arrow at a time. So what was daunting, this entire giant thing I had to scroll through in a Canvas quiz, is now contained within one tiny box. And so it doesn't look as overwhelming. Really helps with that chunking on the CVC OEI rubric, right? To make this just look more reasonable for a student to go through. So every question type that Maddie had in her examples can be embedded. It's just embeddable interactive HTML that you can put anywhere in your course, inside of a quiz, inside of a page, anywhere you want. You can just vomit HTML. If you saw the SDCCD online like actual page of our different things, we embedded an H5P question into our description so you could see websites anywhere you want that will take an HTML input, you can throw H5P. So this is where I'm at, is like barely writing my questions and knowing that I have to go back and redo these years of work of putting things into Canvas quizzes as H5P so that my course is a little cleaner. But I think it's going to be really worthwhile for students to be able to get that feedback and even just say like, hey, you want another one? Click on over, right? I can have them have multiple ways to check, as before I just had the one question. So really looking forward to what we can do with H5P and adapt. So I will stop sharing and let Sarah, our biology professor from City, share what she's doing.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. Let me share my screen here. I'll go here. Great. So thank you, Kelly. My name is Sarah Hawkins. I am a biology instructor at City College, and I have recently started playing around with H5P. I've absolutely fallen in love with it, and I really think it's a wonderful tool, particularly for online, anyone that's looking to expand their online course offering, particularly, I think, in an asynchronous format. I think it's really valuable for those students that are independently interacting with the material. So I think it's really important to, before you make a decision on H5P or adapt, you really think about what your course construction is and how that can benefit your students in that particular format. So just really quick, this semester, what I'm using it for is my general biology course, Bio 107. This is a non-majors course. The lecture portion is online, it's asynchronous. I'm also using an open education resource textbook for this, and I'm only using H5P. I'm not using the adapt portion of this tool yet, but I hope to soon. So I want to go, before I talk about what my reflections are on it, I want to very quickly show you how I'm using it. And where is my student view? Oh, I'm in student view. Great. Okay. So this is an example of the lecture material a student would see in my course. I really try not to put up PowerPoints that have voiceovers on them. The data shows that those are kind of a poor way, right, for students to engage with the content. So what I do is I break up all the learning objectives and try to model active learning as best I can. And that's one of the reasons why I like H5P so much. So here's my first example. YouTube is great, right? They have all these wonderful little snippet videos. For example, here's my first video that shows students how to count atoms in a molecule. And I could tell the student simply to watch this video, but we all know that if we just tell students to do that, they're not going to do it, or they might turn it on and they have the TV on, or they're not actively engaging with that video. So what I do for every single video that I put in my course, I have a follow-up quiz that asks them to assess their learning from what they took from that video. Here's an example where H5P is directly embedded beneath the video. You can check your answers right away. And then it not only gives you feedback, but it also it not only tells you if you're right or wrong, but it also gives you feedback on why the answer is what it is and maybe why you got that particular question wrong. You can continue through the question set. If you get it right, like Kelly said, you get that nice little star, which is that really weirdly wonderful in reinforcement, right? That works so nice. And then at the end of it, I'm not going to fill in all of these. It'll tell you, of course, I didn't enter anything, so I got all of these wrong, but you can click on show solution and it will tell you what the right answers are. Right. So you can modify these in different ways. You can have them show the solution. You could choose not to show them the solution, right? There's all different variations on this depending on how you want to set up these particular quizzes. Another example of something, so here's another example of a video that I have with a quiz immediately following. Here's one where in biology, we talk about water a lot, the molecule. It's really important to understand how water works as a molecule. So here I'm asking students to draw a water molecule, and then you can actually drag the picture so that they can check, right? So instead of just asking a student to draw a water molecule and not having any way of telling them if they're right or not, right? They at least now get a chance to draw something on their paper and then click this to see how closely their model of what they think water looks like matches with what I would think water would look like. And then the last very quick example I want to show is that you don't necessarily have to do assessments or what we think of as like true, false, or multiple choice. There's this really nice type of, I'm not
accordion.
Sure
is it accordion?
Yeah, it's called an accordion, exactly. So I asked students to list the characteristics of a water molecule so they can ask themselves what atoms are there, so then they can, it's just basically an expandable and collapsible drop-down menu. It's called an accordion in H5P. So a really nice way of organizing content. So these are all really great examples of summative assessments that are basically allowing students to self-assess at the question level or at the learning objective level as they're going through this on their own, all the material on their own. The other example I wanted to show all of you, let me go. So because I'm using an open education resource, I'm using OpenStax. And they allow you to embed the textbook directly into Canvas. So students they don't need to navigate outside of Canvas to do their reading material. And this is something I learned a while ago in a reading apprenticeship workshop, and it's called an anticipation guide. So at the beginning of every section of material that I have students read, I first start with a survey. So it's not right or wrong. They're just simply asking themselves if they agree or disagree with really basic statements about the material that they're going to read, right? So many students would think of chemistry as something that only happens in a lab, right? So they might agree with that statement and so on. So they can agree or disagree with these statements. Notice that it's not giving them feedback. It's not telling them if they're right or wrong. They're simply doing a very quick kind of self-assessment to think about their familiarity with the content. So after they go through the reading material, at the end, I have a follow-up to the anticipation guide. And now they're going to revisit those statements and see if, and then this one will tell them if they're right or wrong, right? So this one will say, this is great. And then the idea, of course, is that they are going to reflect on what their assumptions were and modify those assumptions to fit the material. So each one of these you can check, right? Each one of these. So that's more or less, I'm trying to keep it very simple this semester in terms of how I'm using H5P. So the two major ways that I'm using it is for formative assessments and as an anticipation guide. The reason that I love this so much is because, like Kelly said, it gives students immediate feedback at the level of the question or the learning objective, right? And in an asynchronous format, they're really, I mean, at least up to this point, I haven't been able to find something that does that in Canvas or any other application that does that in Canvas. So I really, really like that. The students have gone out of their way to tell me how much they love it and how much they like the way that the material is set up. So I'm getting really good early feedback from students. And I know this isn't super sciencey. I feel bad saying this as a scientist, but my sense as an educator is that there's more engagement. I can just feel a difference in my class in the way, the kinds of questions that they're asking me and the way that they are explaining how they either know or don't know things. I would say the one drawback, because I'm not using Adapt, and of course, because this is asynchronous, one of the big value of formative assessments in the classroom is that it gives you information as well, right? It's telling you, the professor, if students are understanding the content or not. And I don't really get that, right? This is completely up to the students. I don't see how the students are doing on this. I don't see how the students are engaging with this. I don't see even if they are engaging with this, but it's just there for them should they choose to use it. So I'm hoping in future semesters to incorporate Adapt in some small way and give them some points just so that I can track their engagement with it. Let's see. So the question really is this actually increasing engagement, right? That's how can we, instead of just having this sense of whether I'm doing, I'm increasing engagement, can I actually look at this? So what I did for this semester, if you go to your homepage in Canvas, you can click on New Analytics and look at the weekly online activity. And then you can see the number of students in your section that clicked on a particular page. And then you can also look at the total number of page views. So I just compared my results so far this semester with like week 2 is the red outline version. So in fall of 21, basically 69 out of, I think at this time I had 93 students actually clicked on the, so imagine that, right? Only 3/4 of my students were even clicking on the lecture material. So that's kind of disappointing. And then this spring for week 2, I had about 88%. And I want to say that one of these, because the numbers are so small, I think one of those students actually hadn't joined yet. So I think that might actually be 15 out of 16 students engaged. I know this isn't a great, this isn't a bona fide signal of engagement, but it's at least a point in the right direction. I think page views are a bit spotty because students can click on and off, and they can, there's a lot of, I think page views aren't as clear an indicator with student engagement and how well students are doing in a course. But I like the fact that I'm consistently getting student engagement with the pages. This lecture material here that you see on energy, and this is the one that's this week. That's why it's so low. So otherwise, I feel really good about my student engagement. I can, of course, look at individual student engagement and see when they're looking at the material as well. So that is my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm really looking at this point to collaborate with other people and get feedback from other faculty within the district, especially science faculty, or even better, biology faculty. I'd love to collaborate. So if you know anyone that would be open to collaborating with H5P and ADAPT, please send them my contact information. So I think last but not least, we have Philippe. Are you there, Philippe?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Great. I'll hand it over.
Yeah, good afternoon. Maddie, it's hard for me to say Maddie. Madeline, how much time do we have?
We got lots of time.
Yeah, we have
30 more
until-
minutes.
Okay.
2
So I'm going to
p.m.
try to, I just wanted to know. Thank you. Thank you, Kelly. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, my name is Philippe Patto, and I'm the French instructor at San Diego City College. I'm also the chair of the department. And I've been using H5P for the last 3.5 years. I discovered H5P going through the internet, going through different videos, and I am still learning today how to use H5P. That said, it is a program that takes time to learn and all the tool, but don't be alarmed. We can learn it, and it's easy to learn even if you are not inclined with technology. I always hear my colleagues say, well, I'm not good with technology. I say, well, we can learn. We're educators, we can learn. It's not this difficult, and especially if H5P is pretty simple. Yeah, but it takes time. It takes time. So my first things to do is before I show you how I use H5P is I would invite you to go to H5P, and let me show you .org. If you want to know anything about H5P, I would say go to h5p.org, and I'm going to show you that website directly. And yeah, I'm going to go there. So go to here, h5p.org. And h5p.org is the original website of H5P. I started here, I created a free account, and h5p.org has everything that's available. It's and you can figure it out from reading the title, accordion, advent calendar. What is a scavenger? I don't know. I click on it. That doesn't apply to me. So I learned to use few items. I don't use all of them. So one of you was talking about, I think it was Kelly, that talked about drag and drop. Here it is. You have a dictation, dollar cards, crossword is pretty recent. I think it was about a year ago. Fill in the blank essay. You can just look. The nice thing with this website that you click on it and it will show you an example. So does this apply to my discipline? Yes or no, and then you can move on. So that's one way that I have learned. The second way, once I have gone there, how do I learn? We don't have workshops sometimes, so I went directly to YouTube. I invite you all to go to YouTube. I learn a great deal about technology with YouTube. When my computer doesn't work, something is wrong, I go to YouTube. I do not like to read. I read my novels, that's what I read. But asking me to read something, a long list, it's not for me. I like to be video, and we've heard lately that this is the way to go. Video is what the student receive video much better than this long page of reading, okay? So I go there and I go to the number of viewers and to select who am I going to pick, and how old was it. So I will pick up probably 95 over the 22,000. And this one is a bit older. It doesn't mean it's bad. It's just maybe not up to date. So, and click on there. I learn a great deal. There's some people are very good tutor. They do a great video, and I usually select them. I sign up to their YouTube, and I check also online when they're there, what else other video do they have. So I learn a great deal of H5P for this. So let me now show you, and I don't know how many of you, and I wish I knew how many of you. Madeline, do we know how many people are using H5P as among this group? And I'm saying Madeline or Kelly, do we know how many people are using H5P besides our 3?
Is anyone here using H5P besides the 3 of us? You can raise your hand, unmute, throw it in the chat. My guess is no one, because I didn't even know it existed, and I feel like I'm pretty knowledgeable about tech stuff until Sarah was like, oh, by the way, there's the awesome thing I'm doing.
Okay. Thank you. Let me show you. I don't know if you were like me, man. When we got in 2020, we were sent to be online. I searched like anybody else. I searched, okay, what can I do with my student beside the textbook? And I was very lucky. I had a textbook that had a bunch of components that I could use online. But I did, like most of you probably did, this is what I did. I went through application like WordWall, Padlet, Gymkit, Snagit, Camtasia. I pay for every single one of them. Okay, I don't have any kids, so that's how I did it. But it's costly. And then I discovered H5P, and H5P cover most of all those applications. Now, most of them can also be free, but they are limited. So I wanted to have a little bit more, so I just pay for them. But I realized that H5P, when I discovered, covered every single one of them. Whatever book widget has to offer, H5P has it. WordWall just came up with an audio. They didn't have audio before. So you could drag and drop, but you could not hear the word. WordWall just came out with the audio, but H5P has all that. Padlet, I use it. H5P doesn't have that kind of a board where students can have the video all posted and they can just share the video and everybody can see, which I use the first week of class. So to introduce themselves, when it's online, I say, please post your video, and so everybody can know you. So let me go to now. So that's how I did. And when I did the H5P, I realized that H5P has all, whatever app they had, I could do it in H5P, and it's much cheaper. Okay. Now, to let you know, I pay for my H5P. It cost me $600 to do my H5P. I share it with a colleague of mine. So now let me show you my H5P. I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth with Canvas. So you know how I use it. And let me go there. I'm doing this on my laptop. I had a big screen, but I had to mute myself. Somebody knocked on the door. So let me go to, okay. Sorry for this. Okay, so now let me show you how I use H5P in my course. So like this week, week number 6, I give assignment to my student. For instance, have a this one. So I have also incorporated in my Canvas little pencil to say this is only a writing assignment. So it's just a simple presentation that can be done in Canvas, doesn't have to be used on H5P. And you say, read the text, which slide 2, and I, of course, created a link, and it has to do with the world, the French-speaking world. And it says just pick the countries that they are mentioning in this short reading. I teach French 101. And I can attach the document. So if they click on this link, they will open up a document. They can fill it out. And of course, they can submit the document on Canvas. Now, what I did when I created this exercise, I literally embedded the exercise. So I embedded H5P into the Canvas. Same thing, I had to learn how to do that with Canvas as well as for H5P. When you go to H5P, I'm on H5P right now directly. I will go to my assignment of week number 6. I make folders, and I will show you this exact assignment. So if I change anything on H5P, it's linked directly to Canvas. It's updated on Canvas so automatically. Now, how do I embed it? I just went over here to the little world map, and I just took the embedded code. That's one way to incorporate your H5P into Canvas. But I'm not going to do too much about it because, like Maddie was saying, there is a different way with ADAP that you can do it, and you don't have to pay for H5P. I pay for it at this point, but I will learn how to do it, so I don't have to pay $600 a year. So this is the same presentation that is on my H5P and was showing now in my Canvas. And of course, I entered, you need to submit the file and the deadline and everything. So that is one of the assignments. It's a writing assignment. They have to submit the document. Another type of assignment with H5P that I have done, and it helps me to see that's a pencil. That's a pencil is fill out the blank. And everybody's familiar with fill out the blank. They have to fill out with the right preposition. If they do it, they check, and then they can see if the answer is right or wrong. And the same thing over here. And you can do as many slides as you want. And the nice thing is that the student can stop in the middle and he saved the material. That about a year, I think it was a year and a half ago, they didn't have this feature. So if the student were to stop in the middle of it, they had to restart all over again. It's not the case. Now, you see there's an edit button here. I can edit the presentation directly here. I don't have to go to H5P, and it gets edited there. I get a report. We get a report when the student takes the test. The grade goes automatically, of course, into Canvas grade. And also I get a report how many times they've tried it. And I will show you this in a second. Let me go to another way to use H5P. Okay. This, I had to find a way to do this. As you can see here, let me make this a bit bigger so you can see. I do inform my student because you can change the way it's graded. You can change it as they get graded on the first attempt. They can grade it on the best attempt or the last attempt. And that's something you will learn, and just according to your discipline, you will decide what you want. Sometime I do the first attempt because I know it's a very easy exercise and I don't want to give them a grade on the best attempt. So here it's announced here it's the first attempt because I do different exercises and different way graded them. And the student I inform right away on the slide. And here's an exercise when they have to listen to someone giving words and they have to type the words. And then of course they can check if the word is right or wrong, okay? And of course there is about 2 slides, same thing here. Added more phrases, and here's a type of exercise. Same thing, fill up the blank, but this time they have an audio because I want them to hear French being spoken. So now, let me show you another one. I could go to next. How I use it. Okay, this one is présentez-vous or présentez-les. And as you can see, I use a little icon. And it's a speaking exercise. So here I use same thing. I don't have to use H5P, but I have it. So it's like a slide I put a text, a picture. You can incorporate a picture. I put a picture there with the text. And what they have to do is introduce those people. And they're going to do a video where they're going to be, of course, speaking, and they're going to submit this video on Canvas. And they're going to introduce those four individuals. And I can grade them based on their accent, the way they pronounce the word, and the content, and they did well. And so that's one exercise. I do quite a bit of this type of exercise because I want the student to be speaking more than writing almost, because now the world is asking for people to speak the language, not so much to write. As we know, writing, you have translation, you can do all those things. And it's tough to sometimes, we know when students use a translator and it's not really their work, but it's more the computer's work. So to me, I test them more on the speaking ability and the pronunciation. So I will give them also an exercise, the same type, where they do pronounce words, and I listen to the word pronunciation and I give them feedback, and they will, of course, I do a video, not audio. I want to see their face when they're speaking, but I could do audio submission if I didn't want to. But again, I'm using the H5P in that content, more like a picture, because it's simple and I can just load it into Canvas. Let me show you. I do have a book online that I created thanks to Pressbook. And so, for example, I don't like to read. So I, of course, ask my student to read the book because it's a chapter. So go to the book, read the chapter of the book. And are they going to read the book? I'm not so sure about it. So let me see if it's going to open the book. Here it is. So they have to drag, and I've done a little video to show them how to access the book. So let's say they go to now an article, for instance. And this book also has H5P incorporated here, okay? And this is not connected at all with Canvas. So whatever they do here, it doesn't affect their grade in Canvas. However, they have to read this. I try to make this as short as possible with interactive. They read the little lesson here on singular and plural. Boom, right away, I give them something with singular and plural. They learn something about what is an article. So indefinite article, right away, I give them an exercise on those articles. And then they can see, you know, now they can put, like I do, M. So now let's say they put an M, but you know, it's a capital M. You'll learn that you can do both. You can give them multiple way of answering the question. Sometimes students will lose point because they forgot, oh, it's a capital M. And it's kind of, to me, upsetting when you know the answer is right, but it's because you didn't put capital, the answer is wrong. So you, on your side, when you create the exercise, you can give a choice. You can put capital M or no capital M, and that's something you do as you create the exercise on H5P. So I'm going to cheat. I'm going to put M. I have no idea. And here it is. Okay. And then you can show solution. You can retry it. So that is you who set it up. You'll learn you can set it up as show a solution or not, retry or not. That's probably up to you and up to, you know, how you want to run the exercise. So let me go back here. I want them to read. Are they going to read it? They're not going to be graded here. So I discovered in H5P, they came up with the interactive book. So when you go to H5P, you'll find interactive book and interactive video. So I'm talking to an interactive book. So let me go to Canvas again, and let me show you. So now in an article, you just saw this lesson. I believe that was week number here, the definite article 3. Okay, so week number 3. So that same lesson that I asked them to read in a book, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to ask you to really read it. And I'm going to give you an interactive. So I just copy and paste whatever was in my book. And I created what they call an interactive book using H5P. So they read the lesson, they do the exercise, and at the end, they will get a report. And they will show how well they've done. And this gets generated. I don't have to grade anything because the exercise that I put were interactive. I don't give my feedback. And they get a grade, and the grade goes into Canvas. So it's for me a way to make sure they read the book ahead of time, and they get graded for that. And if they don't, well, then they lose a point. As I told you before, because I was week number 3, I do have a report. So here's the student's name. and I can see what they've done. Like those students done, you know, they did it one time, they got 100% each time. One student, 100%, it was not this complicated. And of course, if I click on the student itself, and I can see what time, I can see the result. Okay, so I can see how they did, or if they did something wrong, I can just check. I can, of course, comment on this. So I do have a detail of their work and their answer. Okay, so that is, to me, has been, and this is pretty new. The interactive book is pretty new. Let me show you an interactive. Here it is, audio. Okay, I also create vocabulary. Like I told you, I do not like to read. Unfortunately, I don't like list of words, but here it is. So here they're going to learn about art. So I just give them a list of vocabulary and I put an audio file. So if they click on the audio, they're going to hear it. They're going to hear the word l'architecture being pronounced. And I also incorporated pictures in there on this. So it's the visual is very important to me. And I think it is important to students. It makes the class more interesting, more, happier. If I see pictures rather than a big list. So there is a list here. I use H5P. I use, of course, Excel, or I don't use Excel, but it's equivalence of Excel is numbers in Mac. And I put the word and I put the audio so they can hear the word. And of course, I put their picture to make it more fun. So let me show you.
All right, Philippe, maybe we should see if we have questions
Sure.
from the people here. Since we have about 10 minutes left, so
I
want to open it up. If you want anyone, you can unmute. You can, raise your hand if you feel the need. And you can ask any of the panelists. So if you want to get another look at Sarah's course, Angela.
Hi, this is amazing. I'm a little confused. So I made an H5P?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just learning this lingo. I just made an account, and then so I'm a little confused. What is the $600 Philippe said he was paying for, and what's the difference between a free account and that?
Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned that. That's me. When I started with H5P, there was no payment from the school. I'd applied it. So I took on myself to pay for the H5P. There was a free account, but it was limited to the number of applications. So the way Madeline and Kelly are offering it is to adapt, which I'm new at it, and it's free. It's free to adapt. You don't have to pay for it. So, so I'm sorry, I kind of if I got you confused, but I paid for it. But thanks to now this new adapt, and we won't have to pay for it.
So for us, we have through Libre Studio, we can use H5P and we can just embed in our courses. So that is what both myself and Sarah are doing. We're just using H5P, that first link where you use ASCCC as your passcode to make an account, and we're creating embeddable HTML there. Adapt is a second tool, which is also free, which does a little bit more of what Philippe is hoping, or is using the paid version for, to actually import grades into Canvas. So you can do that through Adapt. That's something that both Sarah and myself will be looking into now that we know it exists, and probably maybe doing another version of these later on. But the starting point is just get into H5P, make some questions, embed them in your course, and see what happens.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Thanks, Angela. Are there any other questions? You can throw them in the chat, unmute, or we can end early. You should see me chair a meeting. They're always over early. I'm like, we done?
Hi, this is Momoko. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentations. It was just amazing. I didn't know anything about it, but I just jumped in and I'm so glad I did it. This is what I really wanted, so that the immediate feedback, that's amazing. And I have a question to Sarah, actually. I think you embedded everything in pages on a canvas. And maybe you mentioned it and I didn't catch it. So all those quizzes, are they automatically graded? And yeah.
Well, they are graded in the sense that the student knows right away if they're correct or not and what the correct answer is and feedback related to those questions. They're not graded in the sense that they get points in Canvas for the actual course. So that's the part that you need adapt for, and I have not done that yet. So it's kind of, I'm really glad they did this, but I think it's a bit of a learning curve to understand. There's two separate parts to this, right? H5P is the interface in which you are going to build your questions. And then you need adapt to take those questions and embed them in Canvas so that the students can get grades. So I have them embedded in Canvas, but they are not, they're not summative, I guess would be the word, right? They are not currently graded in any way. I don't see what the students are doing. It's simply it's simply for the students. It's a resource for them. Okay. Does that make sense, Momoko?
Yes, it does. But so that if you wanted it, if you get the adapt account and incorporate it, then can the page, all the quizzes embedded in a page also be incorporated in the grades, students' grades?
That's my understanding. Maddie, can you address that?
Yeah, I was actually, maybe it'll be easier if I share my screen again. So adapt is kind of bridging that gap between this great interactive content and being able to have it automatically graded. So let's see, I'll share my screen real quick. So here's my super basic development shell. I have my sample assignments. So my sample assignment, this is where you have it load in an external tool. So I'll go back over to adapt. I've made, all my sample. This is what I created in H5P. And then within my adapt account, I have all this content here as well. And so from Canvas, it's going to open in a new screen. And the students will take that's the only downside. I'm not sure if it embeds as nicely as Sarah showed, but it'll open in an external tool. You'll take that same quiz, and then it will create a column directly into your Canvas gradebook. So that one, it will give points if you house it within adapt. So that's the paid H5P will do that automatically. But by creating content within H5P and then kind of housing it in adapt, that's how you can bridge that gap and get it auto graded still with having the free version.
And we'll have to play with that embed because that's a little kludgy to have to click out and go to, I mean, I would just use a Canvas quiz at this point for my summative assessments.
Yeah, I haven't explored too much with embedding it, but I'm sure you can do that as well.
Yeah, I think I think Momoko has a good point I think if I understand her question, I have the same question, right? Can you still do these tiny little snippets of questions that allow us to, formally grade these students with these questions, but still have them in little pieces all over your course?
But part of me is like, my gradebook would be a horror show if I had all of that in there.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Agreed.
That's a great point. I just really loved how Sarah made the page so that students actually have to read everything and then find that instead of just jumping to the assignment. Mm-hmm. But yeah, maybe.
And the student can jump straight to the question if they wanted to. And if they get it wrong, then know that they need to go back and actually read or watch the video.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, so that's a great question from Rochelle, Maddie. When you added those to your course, did you have to link an external app in terms of adapt? Like, how we sometimes go into that weird menu?
Yeah, so submission type will be external tool, and if you search adapt, it should be there.
I didn't see it in my choices. I'm just looking at, I went to the setting and external apps and I don't see anything adapt. So I was just curious because I thought, well, I want to test this out, but I don't see that as one of my options.
wonder if it's just a default.
Yeah, it should be there, but maybe I emailed Brian at first. It wasn't linking for me. Which campus are you at?
Miramar.
Okay, maybe I'll have him double check that it's set up for
Right.
that, because at first it was just set up district wide, and so it wasn't working for individual campuses.
Okay. Yeah,
So
that'd
we
be
can go
great.
back
So I
and
can
double
play
check.
around with it. Thanks.
Oh, it's there. So I think, Rochelle, you're doing what we used to have to do, which is going into the apps area, at least for Mesa. And so I just went to I made an assignment and I did what Maddie said, submission type external tool and then bind. And then it adapt is one of them.
Okay, I'll try it that way.
So I not that I know that it's going to work, but it does look like the only way that that's going to work then is as an external link that loads another page that is auto-graded, not like what Philippe's doing with his Philippe, your H5P is embedded in a page, right? Like you could
Yes.
put text around it if you wanted to and still have them get a grade for the thing they submitted.
Yeah,
So
I do both. I embedded it because if they need to submit, for instance, a video, then I need to embed it. Otherwise, they will not be able to submit the video. But if they need to, for instance, let's say they like fill out the blank, then I don't have to embed it. I can go directly to, external tool, and H5P is listed on Canvas, so I can just get it that way.
interesting. We'll have to play with it more with the adapt stuff to see if we can get something similar to what Philippe is getting without paying $600.
Oh, no. And yeah.
I'll look into embedding as well. And then because it is it's still pretty new. I mean, it's been around for a while, but they're still constantly updating. If we reached out to Delmar Larson, who's the founder, and he still works heavily on it, I'm sure he could figure something out. He constantly has his team updating, fixing bugs, adding new. So if it's something that we really wanted and wasn't available, I'm sure they could make something happen.
Yeah. And the other thing also I've learned is when you embed something, for instance, I embedded for the video. So they have to submit the video, but I want them to also submit a text, of this script. The problem is you can do both technically with Canvas, but you have to go around it. So you go to comments and I say, just drop your text into comment or linked to your document in the cloud. And like this, I have not only a video, but I also have this script. And so they're being graded on writing and speaking.
I have a quick question. So we're getting the free account because of the password we're putting in. So otherwise it wouldn't be free, right?
I believe that's the case. Yes. The ASCCC, the Academic Senate of the California Community Colleges, has an agreement where we have free accounts to LibreText.
Okay. And so, but that doesn't apply to Adapt, or I mean, it does apply to Adapt.
It does.
Okay.
Or at least Adapt, you can request an instructor account. It's part of LibreText, so yeah, it should be.
Yeah, it's free. They just want to confirm that you are an instructor with a school somewhere in California.
So you're not in there just getting into somebody's question banks to see the
Yeah.
answers as a student.
Yeah.
I see.
Just use
Okay.
your district email and they'll email you a link to be able to get into your new account.
Okay,
And-
thank you.
I'd like to add something for you, is that you can copy, let's say you find an H5P that you like, and most of the time you'll be able to use that same H5P without you creating a new one by, there's a little icon, or I don't know, icon at the bottom, it say reuse or download. You can use that and just copy and then change it the way you want, but at least somebody has done all the work, and it's just a matter of using that work as a starting point for you for your whatever test you're giving or exercise. So that's what I love also about H5P. I've gone to a website on the internet and I'm like, wow, I love this, and I'm like, just reuse it, and you can copy it and there's no problem. They leave you access to it. So
Excellent note. All right, we are at 2, so I'm going to stop the recording and say thank you so much. Maddie just got hired like weeks ago and jumped right in and gave a presentation. Philippe and Sarah, thank you so much for sharing the amazing things you're doing with H5P. I hope to be there one day. I will.
And I'm available. If anybody needs help, just contact me. I'm more than happy to share my knowledge, So.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming.